Howdy, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Dunn. Today we are going to be talking about comparing and ordering numbers. So to do that, we need a number line to help us. So part of your sheet that you got was number lines. So go ahead and cut out and paste one in. Our number line here goes from 0 to 10 and 0 to negative 10. In general, we know from the positive numbers that as we move to the right, our numbers increase. That also works for our negative numbers. So once you've cut this out and pasted this in, we're going to say as we move to the right, our numbers increase. And as we move to the left, our numbers decrease. So this is one way that we can help to remember when we're ordering numbers. Okay, we're going to use this number line throughout the lesson. The way that we can compare two numbers is using an inequality. So an inequality is a statement that shows two quantities that are not equal. Okay? And when we look at less than signs, less than, this symbol means less than, and this symbol means greater than. You've learned a number of different ways to look at these and how to order these. Alligators often are used, but we need to know that the smaller end is for where the numbers are smaller and the opened end is where the numbers get bigger. Okay, so if we look at some examples, I'm going to compare these three sets. So the first one is comparing a negative number to a positive number. If I look back at my number line, my 4 is here, my negative 3 is here, so my 4 is greater than my negative 3, so I put the opened end on the 4 and the closed end on the negative 3, and I would say negative 3 is less than positive 4. Okay, and that's usually how it works. That's always in general, if you have a positive number, it's going to be bigger than a negative number. You can think of it as money. This is having $4, this is owing $3. It's always better to have money than to owe money. When we look at two negative numbers, like negative 5 and negative 1, again, I can look on my number line. Here's negative 1. Here is negative 5. Negative 1 is closer to 0. It is further to the right, so it is greater than negative 5. So my symbol is a less than symbol. Negative 5 is less than negative 1. Again, if we're talking about owing money, you could say that it's better to owe $1 compared to $5. So negative 1 is greater than negative 5. It's further to the right. The next example isn't on our number line. Our number line only goes to negative 10. And I have two negatives here. I have negative 18 and negative 29. So I have to think which one is further to the left, which one is farther away from 0, negative 18 or negative 29. Negative 29 is further away from 0, so it is smaller. It has decreased further on their number line, so we'd say that's smaller, and negative 18 is actually my bigger number. Notice that 29 and 18, 29 is bigger than 18, but negative 29 is smaller than negative 18. Okay, so negative 18 is greater than negative 29. The next thing that we're going to look at is ordering temperatures coldest to warmest. So the coldest temperature, would that be the most positive number, or would that be the biggest negative number? If we're talking about coldest, we're talking about negative numbers, which we don't really experience here in Huffman, but maybe somewhere up in the north we could see these numbers. So if I was looking at these numbers, I'm looking for the coldest number first. That's the most negative. I have a negative 4, a negative 2, and a negative 3. So if I look at my number line, here's negative 2, negative 3, and negative 4. Negative 4 is furthest away. It's on the lower end, so negative 4 is my coldest number, followed by negative 3, and then negative 2. And when I have a large list of numbers, I tend to cross out my numbers as I go. That way I make sure I have all of my numbers in there. Okay, so what I have left is 0 and 2. If I look on my number line, 0 and 2. So my next number would be 0 and then 2. And these are ordered from coldest to warmest. I can double check and count. I have 5 numbers that were given to me, and I've ordered 5 numbers in a row. Okay, so Now we can look at what happens with decimals. We've used only integers up to this point, positive and negative, whole numbers, but we can also look at decimals. We can order decimals as well. There is a good way to do that, putting it in this order. I'm going to go through these. Make sure you pause and write down stuff. Remember, everything that I write in my INB, you should have in your INB. So if we're given a list of decimals, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write them vertically. I'm going to separate my positive and my negatives. That way I can order my negatives and then order my positives. The second thing I do is I line up my decimals. I put in placeholders, those are zeros, so that all the numbers have the same digits. And then I can order and compare. Okay, so after you've written this down, let's look at our example. Our example says I'm comparing negative 17, negative 15.3, negative 17.5, 5.6, 7.3, and negative 15.21. So I am going to compare those numbers. Now the first thing I have to do is write them vertically. They are currently written horizontally across my page, like the horizon. So I'm going to write them vertically, and I'm going to separate my positives and my negatives. So I have negative 17, I'm going to do this right here, negative 17, negative 15.3, negative 17.5. I'm going to save the 5.6 and the 7.3 because those are positives, but I have negative 15.21. Okay, and then I'm going to put my whole numbers that are my positives, 5.6 and 7.3. So 5.6, 7.3. So if I wanted to fill in, I've lined up my decimals, so I have a decimal here, and I need placeholders. This goes out to the hundredths place. This only goes out to the tenths. I'm going to fill in a 0, and this is a integer, negative 17, so I'm going to add 2 zeros here. Okay, so now we are talking about negative 17s and 15s. So before I even get to what goes beyond that integer value, I need to see which is smaller, negative 15 or negative 17. If I look back at my number line, the further away from 0 I go in the negative direction, the smaller my numbers get. So when I look at 15 and 17, negative 15 and negative 17, which one is further away from 0? Negative 17 would be further away from 0, so negative 17 would be my smallest number. Now I have two negative 17s. I have negative 17 with 0, and I have negative 17.5. So I have to see which one's further away. And again, think of money. Negative $17 or negative $17.50. That extra 0.5 is closer to negative 18 than negative 17 is. So that 0.5 actually makes it smaller. So this would be my smallest number. So I'm going to write that down. Negative 17.5 would be my smallest number. I'm going to cross it out here so that I know that I don't have to look at it anymore. Okay, I've done that one. The other negative 17 would go next. Cross that out, check it off. Now I have my two negative 15s, so I have to decide which is smaller. So I have 0.3 or 30 hundredths and 0.21 or 21 hundredths. So again, I'm in the negative direction, so I'm looking for the number that is further away from 0. That's my smaller number. And if I think of money, that's 30 cents and that's 21 cents. 30 cents is closer to that negative 16 than 21 cents is, so this is my smaller number. So negative 15.3 would go next, and then negative 15.21 would go afterwards. So I've covered all 4 of my negative numbers. Now I can look at my positive numbers. I just have 2 of them. I have 5.6 and 7.3. So if I'm going from smallest to largest, my smaller number, hopefully we know, is 5.6 because it has a 5 in the ones place, and 7.3 would be my largest number. Okay, so at this point we have looked at using inequalities, and we've ordered integers and decimals. If we turn it over to the back, we are going to write our whisk. Remember, the whisk is, I watched this video, now I'm going to write a statement or a question. And we're just going to do one check for understanding. Our check for understanding is going to be ordering from smallest to largest. And I'm just going to give you 5 numbers. Okay, so my numbers are -23.6, -14, -24.5, -16.2, and -23.75. Your job is to put those in order from smallest to largest, or least to greatest. All right, I hope to see this done in class. Thank you.